So the topic of cost per user is one that I find really interesting with serverless, certainly when comparing to server-based. And there's two areas around cost per user, right? There's the estimation, which, as we mentioned, can be very challenging for serverless because of all the parameters, and there's the tracking. And I think serverless is really powerful in this area because, like, your estimates are more complex, but given the right data, you can get really accurate per user estimates down to like thousandths of a cent. So yes, it's difficult, but if you have the right data and you create your spreadsheets in the right way, they can be very accurate. And I think this is very powerful because it unlocks business models like paying based on usage and very, very accurate cross-departmental billing for internal solutions. The cost per user over time is also an interesting metric here. So if you consider a server-based solution, when you initially launch it, you're going to have your main server. You want redundancy, so you need two servers. And combined, these two servers might be able to handle hundreds or even thousands of users when you might only have 10 or 20. And with serverless, you're just paying for the 10 or 20 users that you actually have. So the investment of a server-based application, it starts very high. Your cost per user is initially very high, and then as you get more users, that cost per user comes down. And so there's value in scaling. You need more users to make it more cost effective. And you're going to have some idea as to when that happens, but initially you're going to have to be investing all of that to yourself to get to that point. Whereas with serverless, it's much more linear. Your cost per user is going to be pretty much the same when you have 10 users as when you have thousands of users, because it's per user costing. Again, you're paying for the number of users. And tracking users around the system. So if you consider in a server-based solution, if you were to track a user going through whatever they need to do in the application, that can be very challenging, very difficult. What percentage of the server is actually being used by a given user? How accurate can you make those estimations? That's quite hard to do. Whereas with serverless, a user will come into the application, if you will. They'll send off a request, and that will cause a microservice to run and perform something for a given amount of time. And that whole action, that request, and that time is linked specifically to the need of that one user. And so you can track them through a serverless system, attributing each service and each microservice cost back to that user. So it's incredibly accurate in terms of the tracking and the billing and everything else that you can do around that.